You keep checking your phone and nothing is there. No message, no invitation, no sudden proof that you belong somewhere. Then you open social media and watch other people laughing in groups, leaning into each other, performing the ritual of effortless connection, and a very specific thought begins to form. Maybe something is wrong with me. That thought is the first lie. Society trains you to interpret solitude as failure. If you have few friends, they assume you are broken. If you prefer distance, they call you cold. If you protect your peace, they call you antisocial. But there is another explanation, and it is far darker. What if your solitude is not a defect? What if it is a filter? What if the reason you struggle to maintain casual friendships is not because you cannot connect, but because your psychology rejects artificial closeness the way a healthy body rejects poison? The average person calls that loneliness. A more honest language would call it discernment. Machiavelli understood that human beings do not gather only for warmth. They gather for hierarchy, leverage, validation, and mutual illusion. Most friendship circles are not sanctuaries. They are agreements. Invisible contracts built on shared weakness, shared entertainment, and shared silence about what everyone can see but no one wants to say. If you have always felt different in groups, it may be because your mind keeps breaking those contracts. You notice the envy behind praise. You notice the disrespect hidden inside jokes. You notice the slight delay before someone says they are happy for you. Others hear words. You register pattern, motive, and consequence. That ability comes with a cost. It becomes difficult to relax around people when your brain is scanning the room like a strategist mapping a battlefield. Social gatherings that energize others often exhaust you because you are not just participating in them, you are decoding them. Every smile, every posture shift, every forced laugh becomes data. This is why solitude often finds the perceptive, not because they hate people, but because they cannot unsee them. Once you detect the machinery behind most interaction, casual connection becomes harder to fake. You can still wear the mask, you simply become aware that it is a mask, and that awareness ruins the illusion. Then another fracture appears. Most people can live on social entropy, recycled opinions, safe observations, repeated emotional loops. They can spend hours discussing nothing and still call it connection. You cannot. Your mind has a violent intolerance for shallowness. Small talk does not feel neutral to you, it feels expensive. You want depth, but depth is rare. You want ideas, not gossip. You want psychological truth, not social maintenance. You want conversations that alter direction, not conversations that merely pass time. And because most people are terrified of depth, they interpret your hunger for substance as intensity. So your circle shrinks again. Not out of arrogance, but out of energy economics. You begin to understand that every hour spent pretending to enjoy empty interaction is an hour stolen from your actual life, from your work, from your thinking, from the structure you were trying to build inside yourself. There is also the problem of control. Groups always come with an invisible tax. Agree with this, laugh at that, pretend not to notice this person's hypocrisy, show up here, support this opinion, hate that outsider. Most people obey these unwritten rules automatically because belonging matters more to them than truth. But something in you resists. You do not submit easily to arbitrary authority, especially social authority. When a group tries to tell you what to believe or who to become, your nervous system does not feel safe, it feels trapped. You start asking questions they do not want asked. You refuse emotional conscription. That refusal makes you dangerous to collective comfort. So they distance you. Quietly, politely. Sometimes they exile you with concern. They say you have changed. They say you are too serious now. They say you think too much. What they mean is simpler. You are no longer governable through approval. And the moment a person stops needing approval, the herd stops knowing what to do with them. Then comes the architect phase. This is where solitude stops being passive and becomes functional. You begin to realize you are building something, even if you cannot fully name it yet. A body, a mind, a philosophy, a future, a life that requires concentration more than companionship. Most people use friendship as anesthesia. They spend time to avoid themselves. You spend time to construct yourself. That is why your social life often collapses whenever your vision sharpens. The more serious you become about your transformation, the less tolerance you have for performative connection.
This is not because you are superior, it is because you are occupied. The architect cannot stay at the party forever. Eventually, he has to leave, return to the empty room, and continue drawing the structure no one else can see yet. To outsiders, that looks lonely. To the builder, it feels necessary. But your solitude does not only unsettle others because of your ambition, it unsettles them because you become a mirror. Quiet people with strong internal worlds trigger projection. When you stop broadcasting your neediness, other people begin hearing their own. Your independence forces them to confront the parts of themselves they keep sedated through noise. This is why some people dislike you before they know you. You did not offend them, you reflected them. Your presence becomes a silent accusation against their dependency, their conformity, their lack of self-trust. And because the ego hates mirrors, it labels the mirror arrogant. There is another reason you walk alone. You live too far ahead in time. While most people are managing today's comfort, your mind is calculating tomorrow's cost. You see trajectories where others see moods. You notice how one habit becomes a future disaster. You notice how one compromise becomes a personality. That temporal distance makes ordinary connection hard. How do you bond deeply with people who are obsessed with what happened this week when your mind is modeling what happens 5 years from now? They think you are overthinking. In reality, you are seeing farther than they're comfortable seeing. And then there is the rarest trait of all, the internal engine. Most people need witnesses to stay motivated, compliments, attention, response, applause. Their fire is external, yours is not. You read because you must, build because you must, improve because you must. Your activity does not require an audience to feel real. This changes everything. A person who can generate meaning internally becomes difficult to manipulate socially. Threaten them with exclusion and they do not collapse. Withdraw attention and they do not starve. Tell them they will end up alone and they shrug because they have already survived the silence and found fuel inside it. That is what terrifies people. Not your solitude itself, but your ability to function without the currencies they rely on. You are hard to bribe with attention and hard to punish with absence. In a world built on social leverage, that makes you look almost unnatural. Still, there is a danger here. Solitude can refine you, but it can also distort you if you turn it into an identity instead of a season. If you stay isolated too long without purpose, your mind starts feeding on itself. Standards become walls, clarity becomes suspicion, protection becomes paralysis. So the answer is not to crawl back into mediocrity just to feel warm. The answer is to use your solitude correctly. Treat it as a laboratory, not a grave. Build in it, sharpen in it, study in it. Let it teach you the difference between empty company and rare connection. Because rare connection does exist, it is simply not common enough to stumble into accidentally. You don't find it by lowering your standards. You find it by becoming so clear, so disciplined, and so unmistakably yourself that the few people built like you can finally recognize the signal. Until then, honor the empty chair. Do not fill it with noise just because silence makes other people uncomfortable. Solitude is not proof that you are unwanted. Sometimes it is proof that your standards are alive, your perception is functioning, and your life is refusing to be diluted by proximity that costs more than it gives. So, if you have few friends, stop asking the wrong question. Stop asking, what is wrong with me? Start asking, what exactly my mind has been protecting me from? The answer may hurt, but it will also free you. Because the moment you stop treating your solitude like a punishment, it becomes a weapon. And once that happens, you are no longer the abandoned one in the dark. You are the person using the dark for training, while everyone else keeps begging the crowd to tell them who they are.